In today's video, 3 reasons why vulnerability is important, especially when leading through times of crisis. In today's video, we have a special guest, Kathleen Naglee, head of school at the International School of Helsinki in Finland.
Hi. On this 5-Minute Friday, we have a guest, head of school Kathleen Naglee from the International School of Helsinki. She's going to be sharing a story with us, and it's a story that she has shared with her school community. We're sharing this because we'd also like for you to be thinking about 3 important reasons that vulnerability, especially in the time of a school crisis, it matters. Reason number 1. When school leaders are willing to share and be more vulnerable, that makes it easier for teachers to ask for help. I think that everyone has a different way of coping with a crisis, and there's not necessarily a right way, but I do think it's really important to recognize asking for help is not easy for everyone all the time. Reason number 2, when leaders are vulnerable, it really does build on the notion that connection begets connection. When you feel more connected to your school leader, you might be encouraged to work on the connection that you have within your own team. It might also help inspire you to think about the way that your classroom is also allowing for students to feel connected with one another. I think it's really important that school leaders model how important that is. And Kathleen's example here of using stories as a sort of connecting mechanism is a great example. Whenever one person is willing to share their personal story, it might invite someone else who has an important story to share theirs. Reason number 3, change only happens when we're really honest. If you think back to times in your organization or in your school where we were reluctant to make change, think about how honest different stakeholders were being about the situation. I can think about this in light of things that I've needed to change in my own personal life. When I was finally able to be really honest with myself about what was going on, then I was finally able to open up and make change. When school leaders are vulnerable, it's easier for educators to have honest, frank, open dialogues about next steps forward. Enjoy Kathleen Naglee's story, and if your school leaders are doing something that is really valuing the idea of vulnerability and connection, please let us know about it in the comments.
Hello, everyone. Today, I'd like to give you a few tips around storytelling for your leadership, coaching, or teaching, and why it's so important. Last week, I was walking through my elementary school hallway, and it was silent, normally filled with children and teachers and lots of movement and a little bit of chaos. And I heard a ping, and I looked down at my phone, and I saw in my messaging that my dear friend just died of cancer. And at that moment, in that silent hallway, I sat down on one of the green students' chairs and I sobbed openly. And I then went to my office, picked up my things, and sent a note to my leadership team that I was having a bad experience at the moment because I just lost a friend. And when I got home, I curled up in bed and I cried. I cried for her and her family and her 2 children. And I cried for myself because I was wondering if I could take much more at this point. For the last few weeks, I've had a heck of a time. I've had to close down an international conference. I had to move my school in defiance of the national government into distance learning. And then just a weekend before, I had to hug my son goodbye because borders were closing and I had to go back to work. And normally I commute every weekend back and forth to see my son between Finland and Estonia. And I wondered if I could be brave at that moment. I wondered if I had the capacity to take much more. And later that day, I got back to work, I dried my eyes, and I continued on. And the reason I continued on is because I know that my work as a leader is meaningful, and that I need to find strength to help others at this moment. And, a few days later, I am counseling my seniors who just found out that their IB exams have been canceled. And they are experiencing grief and loss, maybe for the first time. And I was able to connect back into my own world, my own grief and empathy to connect with these people. And right now we're in a time period with virtual learning and virtual leadership and virtual coaching that we need to connect with each other more than ever before. And we do this through storytelling. We do this through telling about how we're hurting and how we move forward in these trying times. And I urge you to think about your own stories and how you gained strength and how you overcame obstacles. This is the key story to always tell as a leader, as a teacher. We help people navigate this darkness by telling our story. And I know that when I told my story just now, some of you were able to reflect on your own grief and trying times. And I've just connected with strangers probably I don't know around the world by telling this story. Storytelling is powerful, and it's the most vital tool we have right now to connect with each other when it's so difficult to be face to face. So thank you, and think about your stories and let people know them.
Thanks for watching 5 Minute Friday today. We hope you enjoyed this episode and having a guest speaker on our episode this week. We also have a really exciting professional learning opportunity for you that I will be sharing in just a moment. At Eduro, we have been humbled to have had educators from around the world join us in panel conversations and respond to our emergency school closures resources. We want to continue to support you. We know how challenging it is to be an educator right now. We know that school leaders and coaches are looking for ways to keep their community inspired and to relentlessly build community. That's why we've made our online course, Your Connected Classroom, free for you and your peers right now. You can find the link in the description box below. We have been creating community virtually for over a decade now through our Coattail program and through the Coach Microcredential. It's something we know inside and out, and we want to support you through this difficult time. Follow us at Eduro Learning or subscribe to the Coach Better podcast to continue this conversation.